Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The World We Share, a global conversation. I am Dr. Barrett Matthews, along with my lovely, talented, and gifted co-host, Dr. Natalie Forrest. Natalie, how are you doing?
I am good, and I'm fired up today.
Ooh, she's fired up. I'm excited to find out why. But for those of you, if it's your first time here, or second or third, or whatever, we want to welcome you, but we want to tell you what this podcast is about. We want to talk about the world we share. We're in a world where a lot of things are going on, as you probably know. A lot of things are going on that affect a whole lot of people, and that's what we're here for. We want to talk about a lot of events and occurrences that are happening and how it affects you as human beings in this big old world that we share. So, Natalie, what topic are we discussing today?
One of my favorites, education.
Ooh, that's a big word.
I know. And its origin is even better.
Okay.
Because there are lots of different ideas of what, education means. We can have hands-on experience. We can have philosophical education. We can have all of that. It's all a different type of education. In its base, educating just means to open up the world to other people so that they can make up their own mind.
I love it. So, guys, before we get into the topic, we want to let you know that The World We Share is brought to you by Media Boss Pro. If you are a business owner and you're looking to drive your competitors crazy and make them find you and pay you, contact Media Boss Pro so they can help you to gain more visibility and profitability. So, Dr. Natalie, please take it away.
All right. So I already mentioned that education has a variety of facets. And it seems to me that education has been at least partially hijacked. I'm a trained teacher. I used to actually teach in the classroom. And I have noticed, depending on the country, that the idea of opening up the world and letting others decide what they think and reason why they think what they think is a lost art.
Yeah.
So when I was teaching at a college in the US, for example, the students were trying to figure out what answer I wanted. And I was saying, it's not right or wrong. Sometimes they had opinions that I really didn't agree with, but that was not for me to decide.
Right.
So I would always say, why do you think that? What's your evidence? So that I could help them reconnect with the idea of how do I think? And I've found that really in the world we currently live in, I think not just because of media, not just because news is getting smaller and smaller, not just because we're texting, but I think the art of actually thinking and being able to take the time and say, let me think about that. We've lost that. And so, my daughter actually wrote a poem called, Robots. She was saying, we're all being trained to be robots. And I was like, oh, okay. That's when she was 10 and a half. And I'm like, okay, all right. And then, I find myself sometimes facing a little bit of, I don't know, aggression, maybe even when somebody says, so what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't know. I have not done enough research to really voice an opinion. And then I get flagged and they're like, you just don't want to say, oh my God, why don't you dare to talk to me? And I have not had enough stuff to make up my mind.
I agree.
So I'm really, really worried about education because I think it's gotten more to learn this, recite this, and there's one right way. And what that does is, number one, we're no longer thinking critically. Number two, where's the creativity?
Yeah, you're right. And here's the thing, and it's funny because like you were saying with your daughter in that poem, I'd love to read that, because I read something recently, and it says, how ironic is it that we get on this computer and we have to answer a machine that we are not a robot? Isn't that, it's just crazy just thinking that we have to tell it that we're not a robot. So now, you said a lot there, and it has my mind just reeling. So when we're talking about, like you said, it's a lost art about being able to think freely, being able to compose our own ideas, and based on whatever evidence we have there. And I can't speak for what's going on in other countries as much like the U.S. It's not a lost art in the U.S. It's legislated in the U.S. that you're not allowed to talk about these things. You're not allowed to do, and it's crazy. It is crazy. The quote unquote land of the free. It's legislated that you really cannot think or talk freely. Now, to your point of what you were saying about being afraid of what's going on in education, I read a book a couple of years ago called Weapons of Mass Instruction.
Yes. Love that. Yes.
And it really stuck with me, because keep in mind, people, that education is totally different than the educational system. Because the educational system is what Natalie was referring to about how they want to read this, learn this, know this. That's the system. And a lot of the things, come on, we all know it. I'm assuming that just about everybody listening to this is an adult. So, a lot of the things you learn in school, you never applied, but that is what they wanted you to know. They didn't want you to think freely. They wanted you to know certain things. And the one thing, a couple of things in that book that stuck out to me, but one thing that really stuck out to me is labels. It's like, if you learn to read at age 4, and I learned to read at age 9, by the time we're 15, we're both reading. But you are labeled talented and gifted. I am labeled special education. And that stigma stays with you for the rest of your life. There's so many people out there that feel, I can't learn. I'm not smart. I'm stupid, because they were told that when they were young, because they did not do something at a time when society or the system thought that they should. And it is something that, like I said, we tell them to do things this way. People learn differently. It's not that you can't learn, it's that you learn differently. And it's something that God. The one thing I also in that book that talks about is testing. I think he said we test so we can divide.
Of course. Divide and conquer. Really, I mean, that's wow. Divide and conquer has been, that's been around a while.
That's a very good point. That's a good point.
And but on that note, I love that, because one of the things that that I saw, that I learned, and that I was trying to change is math. I'm not trying to change math. Math has a reason for being there. But if we look at some of the exercises we do early on, sometimes in preschool, sometimes in kindergarten. Picture this. There are 4 pictures. 3 have a flower, 1 has a bee. What is the question that is being asked about this exercise?
3 has a flower, 1 has a bee.
The question that the kid is supposed to answer is, which one does not fit? So now you're being taught to eliminate that which is different.
I didn't know the question, because I was thinking, how many flowers does it pollinate or something?
Right, that would be logical, 3 plus 1, or what does a bee do to the flower, or whatever. No, it is, you're supposed to X out the one that doesn't look like the others.
That's a great point. Excellent point.
I didn't come up with it, but I saw it once. I'm like, duh. And that means we're teaching our kids to dislike, to categorize, as you just mentioned, that which is different, it doesn't fit. And education at its base, of course, is also meant, I think the way they phrase it is like manners, teaching manners or forming manners. And we all know that there used to be different behaviors in different situations.
Yeah.
So there are certain words I won't say in this show. I might think them, I might say, but I won't say them. I talk differently to my mom than I talk to my daughter. When I train people, I talk differently than when I scream for my daughter on the basketball field. I mean, there are differences.
Right.
And have you noticed those differences are beginning to slide away? The question is it good or bad? I don't know. But they're beginning to slide away. And it's partially where do we use what manners? So I actually, I'm traditional in some ways. I get offended if somebody says to me, "Hey, dude." I'm like, excuse me? Okay.
I mean, and I don't blame you. You're a lovely lady, but
I mean, if you say it to me and we're in a general conversation, it's different. But
the thing is, if I said it to you, you would laugh.
Yes.
Because I would never talk to you like that. So but the thing is, it's one of those things that it's all about, going back to this, probably another show, relationships.
Yes.
So in order to use certain language for certain people, you have to have relationships. And that's something in education, I don't know if enough relationships are being built either.
No.
Between the person instructing and the person supposed to be learning. Because if there's a real relationship, the person instructing also learns.
Yes.
And I don't think a lot of people, teachers rather, and administrators in the system care about learning anything.
No, it's about instructing a certain way.
Yes. Follow my way, and that's the only way. And if you don't, you will be punished for it.
Yeah. Then you get labeled as this or that. And that goes, that goes with the idea of, math or anything. It's like there's one right way. But we wouldn't have had Albert Einstein. We wouldn't have had Nobel Peace Prize winners, Nobel chemistry winners, or, whatever other awards you want to give, if everybody was thinking the same way.
Yeah. I mean, if we've seen this before, we've seen, say, an American student and a Chinese student doing a math problem. Both come to an answer, both do it totally different ways.
Yes.
And they're taught different ways of doing it. So that means there's not one way. There may be one answer.
Yes.
But there are several ways of getting to it. As I said, it's more than one way to skin a cat. That's the way it is in education. There are several ways. Some of your most memorable teachers in school did things in an unorthodox way.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, because they're the ones that you remember. I mean, I remember an English teacher in high school, Miss Goodell. She was an odd lady. She was definitely an odd lady. She told us all she was a witch.
Cool. I like her. Can I meet her?
She would bring her snake skin to school. Her snake was shed, and she would bring the skin into. She was an interesting lady.
Hands-on learning, yeah.
But she was teaching us about the as she called them, the to be verbs, and she had us do this chant. Now, keep in mind, it was 40-some years ago, but it still stays in my head. We had a chant. Everyone had to go. Am, are, is, was, were, be, being, been. Am, are, is, was, were, be, being, been. We had to do that over and over. It stays in my head forever because she was an unorthodox teacher.
Yeah.
I had a 5th grade teacher, Mr. Herman. We loved Mr. Herman. Why? Because he did things that were different. He would come get me out of class just to give me a pack of bubble yum. He would play basketball with us.
Bribery. That's called bribery now.
I wasn't in his class. But when I was in his class, we played basketball together and all sorts of. I had a teacher, Miss Pronk. She was probably the hardest one I had. Really hard, really, really hard. But and I remember that because she was hard too. But she also, this was a different day and time. I actually went to her house and made brownies one time.
Absolutely.
Couldn't do that now, but
but I need to interrupt you there because that is something as an educator. There's so many rules that have been put on us.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, what is wrong with going over to, I forget her name, Miss X's house as a group or 2 or 3 and baking cookies? what is wrong with it if that helps you, for example, I'm making the story much bigger. If that helps you figure out, I need math to realize I need this much oil, this much this, and this much that. I had a student in my class once, and a good friend of hers had just committed suicide. This girl was in tears. Well, what was my instinct? She trusted me, so I wanted to give her my shoulder to lean on. I was not allowed to do that.
Yes.
Because it could be harassment.
Yes. I had one of my high school football coaches. He went to another school here in Maryland, and he was one of those guys that every student relates to. Yes. All the students, male, female, they all love talking to him because he was just that guy. And one day he met one of the other students who met her off campus at a park just to talk, because she had some things going on at home, some of which she did not talk about it in the school. And he met her and talked about it, almost lost his job.
Yes.
Because he just was there to talk to her. She wanted to let some things out. And he's happily married man, wasn't trying to, he was just trying to help this student out. And got in trouble for it. It's a different day, different time, because to be honest with you, I don't get me wrong, I'm not belittling the abuse that happens to students and teachers. Of course. But there's that relationship thing, because she cannot really focus on her education if she feels that she can't let out the things that are bothering her inside. And the same with any other student. If you don't feel that you can trust the people who are meant to educate you, you're not going to really listen to what they have to say.
Right. And, that goes back, you've mentioned the topic of relationship a number of times. Let's just think about, why do people become teachers? They don't become teachers to give their students a worksheet, have them work on it, grade it. And teachers do a lot of work, right? Even when they're not in the classroom. No, you want to bring education, bring interesting things into the classroom, open up the minds.
Especially for the pay they get.
Yes. But then we're cutting off the relationship. So all of a sudden, education is no longer about this new world. It is, you're not allowed to show your emotions. You're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to go outside the box. You mentioned the box yesterday. You're supposed to do it this way. Well, that's not education anymore. That is specific training towards an end goal. And the end goal is not knowledge or wisdom.
One of my friends, Dr. Myron Golden, he says they're concentration camps. That's really what they're like. You said, I mentioned the box. They want you in a box. They want you in a box. They don't want you coming outside that box, right? Because now you're a malcontent. Now we have to send you away.
Now you're a rule breaker.
Well, what's the song? It's by Supertramp. I'm going to really date myself now. The Logical Song.
Yes, I know.
And for those of you who don't know it, just look up Supertramp is the name of the group, Supertramp.
Yes.
And the song is called The Logical Song. And I heard the song a million times, but never listened to it until like probably 5 years ago. And I was listening to it, and it's like, wow, they send you away to make you think logically, and all. They want you to be a certain way. And it's just really interesting when I thought about that. I'm like, wow, that is true. Or what's the song, Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control.
Well, one of my favorite songs, Nickelback, they're talking about revolution as well. We need to tear down the way that we're doing things. And it's really detrimental. We're talking about education in its old ways. I mean, they used to have back, the Greeks, they used to just talk about issues, and Socrates, the Socratic method, ask questions. You don't give the answers if you're a teacher. You're asking questions to help them creatively come up with an answer. So we've lost that. We've also lost the relationship. But let's just look at the bigger picture, right? On the one hand, yes, we want everybody, or they want, or whoever wants everybody to be easy to handle. The economy needs creativity.
Yes.
It doesn't go together.
Whoa. Well, it's funny. You mentioned Socrates, Aristotle, they're all called philosophers.
Yes.
So what they do now is they put them all in one class, philosophy, which is what? An elective.
Yes.
So
it is in the US.
Yeah. Well, and that's in the US, you're right. And I'm only speaking from that perspective.
Right.
And I'm meaning that it's not part of the curriculum.
Yes.
It's something you have to elect. And most people know nothing really about themselves. Well, why would they elect that?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that, and that brings up another topic, but I'm just gonna touch on something as a book I read about the Christian church. And what he was basically saying is that when Paul created the Christian church, it was not meant to have one person sitting in a pulpit talking to a crowd of people. It was meant to have everyone come together, fellowship, love together, praise God together. Now we're talking about education, same thing. Same thing. We should get together and learn together, because like I said earlier, teacher should be the one learning the most.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street. And the coming together, we're both coaches, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who are coaches listening. We love masterminds. What is a mastermind?
A real mastermind.
Yes, you have somebody leading it, but that person is learning too. Yes. And then you have 10, 12 people sitting there, and they're all helping each other, coming up with new ideas. And there is no right or wrong.
No right or wrong.
That's also learning and teaching. Yes.
And it's like I said on the previous episode, if you have two people that agree on everything, one of them isn't necessary. Yeah. So anyway, guys, that was a great topic today. Again, Natalie, you keep bringing them. Anyway, guys, we're getting ready to come up to our spotlight of the day. But what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Dr. Natalie is going to have our spotlight of the day. So stay right where you are. Let's face it, you've been talking about starting a podcast for quite some time, but you haven't started yet. Why is that? Could it be that you just don't have the time because your day-to-day keeps you so busy? Or could it be that you don't want to learn all the technical aspects that go into putting together a quality podcast? Well, at Media Boss Club, we take care of that for you. How would you like to have a done-for-you experience? That's right. At Media Boss Club, we build your podcast for you. We will edit your podcast. We will put in the music for you. We even put in commercial breaks that you can put your advertisers in. We will take care of all of the uploading to the great podcast platforms that are out there. That's right, we do everything. All you have to do is just right now go to MediaBossClub.com. That's MediaBossClub.com, and let us handle the heavy lifting for you. All right, everybody, welcome back to The World We Share, a global conversation. I'm Dr. Barrett Matthews, along with my talented and gifted co-host, Dr. Natalie Forrest. Natalie, it is time for our spotlight of the day.
I thought I had a spotlight, but you've said those things so often now. I'm going to change my spotlight. So the spotlight today is my gifted and talented co-host and lead host, Dr. Barrett Matthews.
I'm the spotlight of the day.
You're the spotlight of the. I had something else, but you keep complimenting me. So today you're the spotlight, because not just because you keep complimenting me. I like that too, I can keep doing because that. Of the work that you do, not just in media, but you are a service-oriented person. You try to help people. You try to be there for people. You try to understand people. So you're the spotlight because of your character and because you're gifted and talented too.
Thank you. I mean, I don't know when the check will arrive, but it will get there. I promise you.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for that. And I appreciate that. And I will continue to serve because that's who I am and that's how I was made. And guess what? The reason she knows that is because it takes one to know one. So yeah, I turned it back on you. Yes, I did. So guys, we want to thank you so much for joining us. And one more thing. Yeah. If you have any ideas that you want us to talk about on our show, please let us know. Go to our groups on LinkedIn, go to YouTube, let us know. And also if you're on Spotify, if you're on Apple, leave us a great review, but make sure that you are sharing with everyone that you are listening to or watching The World We Share, a global conversation with myself and Dr. Natalie. So guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you, and we will see you next time on The World We Share, a global conversation.
Bye.